All right, here we go. Right around 2:30 on this Wednesday, July the 19th. How's it going, everyone? William Cole here in the Storm Studio. This is our behind-the-scenes weather model discussion. This is where we like to take you behind the forecast, look over some of the raw data, and again, show you how we're putting together the forecast of the day. Nothing we put on our channel. We put this on our social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Again, if you see it there, feel free to like or comment below. So let's go and dive into this. We've actually got a lot to talk about today. Again, obviously, we all know right now we're currently in the middle of a heat wave, right? I mean, temperatures soaring well over 100 for another day in a row. But we do have weather changes on the way as we get into this upcoming weekend, specifically Saturday. It appears as though we do have at least a break in the heat, maybe an opportunity of some isolated thunderstorms around the area as well. So we want to talk about that. And then we'll also take a quick peek at the tropics as well. A couple things going on out there, including some tropical activity currently moving through the Hawaiian Islands. So again, more on that coming up. But first of all, let's just go and start here locally. And this is our live cam from Reunion Tower looking at downtown Dallas. Again, not a lot to see today. It's brilliant blue skies out there. And again, a great shot, of course, of downtown Dallas. But the real story is this right here, right? I mean, just looking at temperatures around North Texas. The temperature levels are running a few degrees less hot than yesterday, which is good, right? Really kind of anticipated. Of course, yesterday we topped out at 108 locally at DFW, 110 at Alliance over on the Fort Worth side of town. And so today, again, right now, just after 2:30, we're at 101 at DFW. Still time to maybe creep up to around 103. 104 was our forecasted high today. But there's a little bit more moisture in the atmosphere, low levels of the atmosphere, the humidity, the dew point number, just a little bit higher than yesterday. And the way that factors in is air that has a little more moisture, right? It's a little more moist, does not warm as easy. Yesterday, we mixed out a lot of the moisture. The humidity, especially during peak heating late in the day, dropped. The dew point number truly dropped. And that's what really allowed those temperatures yesterday afternoon to jump up to around 108. Typically here in North Texas, to really get those extreme temperatures, right? Stuff that's really 105 or above, you really have to mix out the moisture. You really need a fairly dry air mass to truly get those numbers to go. That's what we had yesterday. It's a little stickier out there today. It's a little more humid. And again, because of that, again, we're having a little more trouble, really warming up the temperatures. I don't think there's going to be any complaints, but the only flip side of this is even though our air temperature is only 101, again, our feels like number, which does factor in the humidity, has been running a little bit higher today. So again, regardless of how you look at it, excessive heat warning in effect. It is dangerous out there. Again, exercise your heat precautions. Don't forget about your outdoor pets, your outdoor animals, right? You don't need me to tell you that. Just quickly here, and then we'll move on to the raw data. This is the excessive heat warning, and the Weather Service overnight, they did go ahead and include all of North Texas. They just basically did kind of their general forecast area and filled that in. Regardless, this time of year, whether you're under an excessive heat advisory, a heat advisory, or an excessive heat warning, it doesn't matter, right? We all know it's all dangerous. It's just basically letting you know you need to, again, exercise those heat precautions. So there's just different criteria they use for which one they issue, but at the end of the day, they basically mean the same thing. Okay, let's get over to the raw data. And this is what you're really tuning in for, right? This is what we like to look at here. Not the pretty TV graphics. If this is your first time watching one of these with us, it's not going to be the pretty TV graphics. We're truly going to look at the raw stuff, the raw model data coming up here momentarily as well. But this is where we like to start. And again, this is just from the Storm Prediction Center. This is their meso-analysis page. And this is looking at the 500 millibar chart, about 18,000 feet up. And again, this is just giving us the overall pattern around the country. And what we're seeing, number one, is the ridge. And you can see the bump right there in the jet stream flow. This is the summer heat dome. And it basically extends from the Colorado Desert, kind of the low deserts out in Southern California, all the way here to North Texas, parts of Oklahoma. And again, anything that I've kind of circled and red there, it's hot, it's sinking air. The weather pattern, for the most part, is fairly quiet. And again, truly, that's where, again, temperatures are soaring. Now, on the flip side, just to the north of that, and just to the northeast of that, this is where we have this northwesterly flow pattern. And even here in North Texas, as we get into this weekend, talking about this upcoming Saturday, as the ridge begins to shift off a little bit further to the west, it's going to bring that northwesterly flow, right? What we call ridge riders that are coming up and around, little impulses, opportunities of rain and storms to develop up and around that ridge and then drain down, right, on northwesterly flow to the southeast around the ridge. That's what's going to happen for us Saturday. It's going to open the door for a very weak summer cold front to come in and maybe a couple spotty rain and storm opportunities on Saturday. Doesn't look overly promising, but that's kind of the thinking behind it, right? Again, as that does move back to the west, it'll kind of bring that flow pattern in. Here in North Texas, as we go through latter parts of June, July, August, typically the only time we're really able to get a break from the heat or we're able to get some type of an active pattern to develop is if we get into that northwesterly flow, right? The ridge backs off to the west. The only other example would be if there's something tropical that comes up, and right now nothing like that is showing up in the near term whatsoever. Okay, from there, let's go and take a look at the overview, just kind of around the nation, right? As we mentioned, you know, it's a lot of ridge riding activity. You can see just from the Storm Prediction Center, the convective outlook here, opportunities of active weather north of the ridge and also northeast of the ridge there as well. There's also a stalled out surface boundary there, and again, it's just kind of lighting up. And unfortunately, the folks over in Kentucky have really been inundated by round after round after round of rain, storms, and even heavy rain. We've even had some flash flood emergencies issued across parts of Kentucky. It's a little more terrainy, so again, heavy rain adds up quickly, but there's some locations in Kentucky just over the last 24 hours that, again, they've had almost 13 inches of rain. So that's a big deal, right? 13 inches of rain. Even here in North Texas, we get 13 inches. I mean, that's a huge deal, right? We'd be dealing with our own flash flood emergencies. So, and they've got more rain on the way. They've got more rain later today and tonight on the way there as well. But again, opportunities you can see of active weather around the nation. Quickly, we'll look at the convective outlook for tomorrow. And take a look at that up in the high plains, right? The Oklahoma Panhandle, parts of Colorado, even parts of far western Kansas. That's an enhanced risk. There will be a complex of storms that forms up there coming off the high plains. That will roll down into Oklahoma tomorrow. It stays north of North Texas, but it is a sign of things to come. That's as the ridge begins to slowly back off. And again, like I mentioned, late Friday into Saturday, that's when it may open the door. I don't see a complex of storms coming in here. I don't see anything like that whatsoever, unfortunately. But again, with a little impulse, I think we'll get that brief weak summer cold front. And there again, there's Friday. Just one more quick peek at the convective outlook. So as far as things going here, anything we would be concerned about, even upstream from us, anything we'd be concerned about, again, just kind of in the short term there, looking at the convective outlook from the SPC. Simply put, nothing really showing up. Just looking around the nation here as well. And this is from NextLab. Again, like I mentioned, we're not really using our pretty radar graphics. We're just showing you this is truly the NexRad composite. In fact, you can see the ground clutter from all the different NexRad sites. And so they truly put this together just as raw NexRad data. It's not very pretty, but it really does tell the story as to, again, what's going on around the country. And again, you can see it's really that Mid-South that's just been inundated by active weather. Again, they've got more moving in. You can see additional complexes, again, developing upstream. Like I mentioned, it's that northwesterly flow pattern. Even for them, everything draining down to the southeast. So again, wave after wave after wave of additional opportunities of rain, storms, on top of the 13 inches they've already received. Again, more flooding will continue to be a concern there for sure. Then again, you can also see off the mid-Atlantic coast some activity. And then also up across parts of the northern tier. Take a look at that. Our friends up to the north getting some active weather as well. Elsewhere around the west, things pretty quiet. You can see out towards the Great Basin, you know, the monsoon season has not really been there this year. You know, for our friends out in New Mexico and Arizona, you know, this is the time of year, and truly, we're almost out of the monsoon season for the folks out there, but the Great American Monsoon did not really happen this year. I mean, they've had some rain out there, and they're getting a little bit of monsoonal moisture. You can see out here today, even out across parts of Nevada, but it has not been a good monsoon season for them whatsoever. Maybe something will change with that, but again, they're kind of running out of time on it. So a little bit of rain out there, and that's just Pacific moisture that typically gets trapped under that ridge, right? Pacific moisture literally coming up out of the eastern Pacific. It gets trapped under the ridge. It gets really hot, and it rains itself out. And so that's their monsoon season. But again, that's the rainy season. That is, at times, for some locations out there, the only rain they get almost all year. So it's a big deal. But again, like I mentioned, it really has not materialized this year for the most part. Okay, so from there, let's do this. We'll take a quick peek at the tropics, then we'll get into our local data and really give you a good run through of what's going on here. And number one, we've still got Don. He started subtropical, now he's a tropical storm. Wind's still right around 40. He's in the northern Atlantic, right? And he's just doing a loop-de-loop out there. He's eventually going to curve back off to the north, to the northeast. No threat to land, no threat to anything other than the shipping lanes out there. He is causing some issues in the shipping lanes. Outside of that, Don, really just not a big deal, right? We're following him, we're talking about him only because it's a named storm, and right now there's nothing else going on. There is a little wave, though, that has just come off the coast of Africa. In the near term, over the next 48 hours, the Hurricane Center giving this a 0% probability of development. However, over the next 5 to 7 days, there's a 20% opportunity as it gets a little bit further west of the main development zone that he may turn into something, or this wave may turn into something. Doesn't look very likely. There's a lot of dusty, dry air, Saharan dust out there, big ridge of high pressure just off to the north. Conditions are not favorable, right? But at the end of July, August, September, sometimes things don't look favorable and something gets going, right? But right now, there's no data showing that there's really anything happening with that. But again, it's something we'll keep our eye on. Over to the Central Pacific. And this is Calvin, right? So he's moved out of the Eastern Pacific. He's now in the Central Pacific, moving through the Hawaiian Islands. And now this is turned over to the Central Pacific Hurricane Agency, right? And so they've been issuing tropical storm warnings on him. The good news is the real core of the storm has passed just south of the Hawaiian Islands, but most of the active weather has kind of been on the northern fringes of this system, but a lot of it really just kind of bumped up against the big island, right? And it has not been a big player. They are getting some rain. I mean, there's a little bit of wind in the Hawaiian Islands, but again, I've kind of been following this pretty carefully as we've gone through the day, and it really doesn't look like much, right? They're getting rain, they're getting a little wind. Current winds, I mean, sustained winds with this are only at 45 miles per hour anyway. But again, there were some high wind warnings that the Weather Service locally out there issued for winds maybe up to 60 miles per hour. I haven't seen anything near that at all, right? So it's just kind of an inclement weather day. It will be today, also will be for them tomorrow, and this will just continue to move on out of the way, right? So Hawaii, fairly lucky typically when these things come in from the east like that, that they're kind of in the cooler waters, typically don't really do much. It's the southerly storms that come in out of the warmer Pacific water up out of the south that can sometimes cause them problems. But those are very rare, right? I mean, even though Hawaii's out in the middle of the Pacific, you would think they would just be getting hammered by tropical activity. They really don't. And again, the main reason why, it's just kind of the temperatures of the water, and it really takes a system coming out of the warmer Pacific to really give them issues. And like I said, it's very rare that happens. So again, kind of a natural protection out there for the beautiful Hawaiian Islands. Okay, let's jump into our data now. And we'll come over to weathermodels.com, and this is what I use for our weather data here. And what we're going to start off with, and let me do this here, we'll give you the zoomed in view. What we're going to start off with here, it's the same thing, it's just the 500 millibar chart, but we're going to walk you through the next 10 days, right, based off the European data. And again, the one thing we're going to be watching, and watch this carefully here, it's the ridge, right? For our weather locally, currently everything is all about the ridge. So it's going to be that area right there. And as I roll this into motion, you can see heading into the weekend, what happens with the ridge, right? It begins to retrograde, it backs out to the west, right? Back out towards the Great Basin, back out towards the Colorado Desert. And then what happens? See that northwesterly flow? This is what I'm talking about right here. See the northwesterly flow coming down into North Texas? And there's a little dip, there's a little impulse embedded within that. And that's going to bring that very weak summer cold front down into the area. If you look at this carefully, the summer heat dome, there it is. It's well out to the west. But that's going to be a couple-day deal. Sometimes you can get in these patterns, and you can get stuck in this pattern for a week, week and a half, and you get some real, heat relief, right? I mean, we're typically this time of year, we're not bringing down big cold fronts. We're not getting temperatures well below normal, but sometimes we get kind of back to normal, maybe a couple degrees below normal, just some heat relief this time of year, right? But again, if you get stuck in that pattern, sometimes you can have a week where you're at or maybe a few degrees below normal. This pattern will not last long. This is going to be maybe a 1 or 2 day wonder, literally. And as we get into late Sunday into Monday, let me clear this off. Take a look at this here. Look at the summer heat dome. What happens? It comes roaring back. And it really kind of manifests itself more so over parts of the Intermountain West. In fact, you can really see the entire ridge here. Take a look at this carefully. I know it's a little hard to see, but look at the ridge where it manifests itself, right? More so even over parts of the Intermountain West. So, we're talking about like the Colorado Rockies, we're talking about the Northern Rockies, some locations that, they typically get a few hot spells over the summer, but they could really get some real deal heat as we get into next week. But again, notice how close it is to North Texas. It builds back in. Our temperature levels are going to go back up to near or over the triple digit mark as we get into next week, right? So it's another hot pattern as we get into next week. Does not favor any precipitation here whatsoever, okay? Let's do this. I want to kind of show this in a different way. This will be the 850 millibar chart, and these are temperatures just off the surface. And again, you can see as we get into the weekend, there's the ridge. Look at that. Okay, so it slides back. You can see, look carefully, and you can see that little weak summer cold front. See the oranges dipping down into North Texas as we're in northwesterly flow. Take a look at that. That looks good. See that? That really looks good, right? Even though that's only temperatures still right around 95. But again, compared to 108 yesterday, right? That's a big deal. Okay? But then here we go. As we get into next week, look what happens. Here comes that ridge back. Man, look at the Rockies. Look at the Intermountain West. I mean, they're going to be boiling. And again, obviously, you can see our temperature levels there go right back up as well. So in other words, it's going to go right back to hot and dry. Okay, it's going to go right back to hot and dry. Let's look at the high-res data here quickly. And this is just going to be future radar. This is going to be based off of the HRRR model, the high-resolution rapid refresh. We can take this out about 48 hours, and we'll take a look at the 48-hour run here. And for us, it's quiet, but take a look at that complex. Remember that enhanced risk that you saw from the Storm Prediction Center? Look at that complex tomorrow. It's going to develop off to the north, off to the northwest, coming off the high plains. Look at that. Moving down into Oklahoma, you maybe see that and you think, oh, maybe something's heading towards North Texas. There's some rain. Look at that, right? But then it hits the summer heat dome. It bumps it, and look what happens. It's deflected, and it basically vaporizes. So no chance of any rain for us. I mean, you go 100 miles to the north, you're talking about rain and storms up in Oklahoma and severe weather. Pretty decent little bow. See that bow echo coming into northwestern Oklahoma? Again, that's for tomorrow. It's the summer heat dome, deflects off to the north and vaporizes, and that's it, right? So that's not our rain chance, okay? That's not our rain chance right there whatsoever, but there's something in the area. From there, let me go ahead and show you the Euro. This will take us out the next several days. In fact, this will take us out the next 10 days. This will be for total precipitation, first of all, right? What is the Euro thinking as far as total precipitation? You can see in North Texas, it is not very bullish anymore. This really began about 2 days ago with this week's summer cold front. I've still got a 20% opportunity in for Saturday, but the Euro, I mean, specifically now, I mean, you want to get technical and say Dallas, Tarrant, Collin, Denton County, Rockwall County, Parker County. The Euro basically saying dry, saying no, nothing's going to happen. Notice just to the south in our southern counties like Hill County, and then down into central Texas, you're seeing a little smattering of gray. The Euro thinking more so on Saturday that the front may trigger a few showers and thunderstorms south of the Metroplex down there. Again, at this point in time, it's all semantics. I mean, 50, 75-mile difference. I mean, who knows, right? It's a 20% probability. There's probably going to be a few scattered showers and thunderstorms around. It will not be a washout. It's truly not going to affect your weekend plans. It may affect them as though it's going to be a little bit less hot this weekend. That's going to be the only advantage. So here's the model output. This is the QPF output, right? This is basically a 6-hour snapshot. Where could we see rain and thunderstorm activity, right? So we're dry in the near term. We know that. This will be Friday evening. Notice the opportunity of rain and storms comes right up to our Red River Valley, right? That's going to have to do with the front. That activity basically dries up after sunset. Again, our northern counties, our Red River counties, could we maybe see an isolated thunderstorm up there Friday night? Not impossible. And then as we get into Saturday, there it is. You see the Euro does still try and develop some isolated thunderstorm activity near the boundary, near the weak summer cold front, but it's got it basically down into central Texas by that point in time. So the heating of the day, again, with the boundary in place, the Euro saying, hey, there's still a spotty storm chance. but it's south of DFW. In fact, it's almost south of North Texas specifically. So again, we'll watch that, and that may very well be the case. We may end up having to take out the rain chance. Right now, it's close enough. I mean, this isn't a 50% rain chance. It's a 20% placeholder for right now. We'll see what happens with that, right? But the front truly has to make it that far to the south in order for that to happen. Again, if it were to stall maybe near Interstate 20, then there might be a little bit of a better rain chance here locally. Okay. After that, summer heat dome builds back in, and take a look at that. There's nothing, right? Nothing. We go dry, which is typical. July, August, there are drier months of the entire year. This is typical. We're not really expecting rain this time of year, so nothing out of the ordinary with that whatsoever. Let's take a look at the temperature profiles here. And what we'll do, we'll peek at the Euro first, and then I'll show you really what I'm looking at, what I'm kind of basing my forecast off of. I like to use the blend of models, the NBM. So this is just the raw Euro data first. The Euro was saying 107 today. It's going to miss it, right? I mean, right now we're at 101. We'll probably get to about 103-ish sometime this afternoon during peak heating, which is really about now for the next hour and a half or so. The Euro still keeping tomorrow, Thursday, pretty hot at 106, Friday 108. Euro's been just a little too hot recently. The Euro, again, not as bullish this weekend. Was Saturday, right? It's saying, yeah, there's a summer cold front coming in, rain probability is basically none, not a lot of cloud cover. It's putting us still right around 98, not a lot of heat relief, okay? That is a real possibility. I mean, we may still be around 98. I'm a little bit cooler than that. I'll show you that. And then next week, you can see the Euro basically building the temperatures right back in, well above 100. Okay, this is the NBM, National Blend of Models. This takes all of the model data and it weights all the model data differently, right? It doesn't just combine and average it, but it assigns a certain weight. How accurate is this set of model in this specific time frame? Somebody's gone through and figured all of that out. So it puts all of it together, all of it's weighted, including the high-res short-term stuff, and then it spits this out, right? This is pretty good data. I use this. This is what we truly base our forecast off of with a few tweaks here and there. So for tomorrow, Thursday, it's saying 104. Probably within the range. Again, depending on how humid. Again, if that humidity level stays about where it was today, we may be more so around 103, 102 tomorrow, right? So we'll watch that. Friday, 102. Saturday, it's still got 96 now. It did have 95 earlier. I'm still at 95, just kind of a catch-all 95. I mean, basically mid-90s, right? We'll kind of fine-tune that a little bit more as we get closer in time because, again, we may not necessarily be that less hot. In fact, the blend of models has now gone up 1 degree. You say, yeah, 1 degree, big deal, but you have to watch the trend because 1 degree turns into 2 degrees tomorrow, 3 degrees on Friday, and we're talking about 95 today, and by the time we get to Saturday, we'll be talking about 98 or 99. You see where I'm going with that? So that is a trend we got to watch. Right now, it's back up to 96. Sunday, 99, that's what I have as well. We'll be back to near 100. Then the next week, we're back to and just above 100, right around 102, 103. The way it looks for most days. Next week also looking a little more humid as well. And then also notice those overnight lows, some heat relief overnight as we go through the weekend with overnight lows in the 70s. Then we're basically right back to 80. Overnight lows that do not drop below 80, that really factors into the criteria of a heat wave. In fact, a lot of National Weather Service offices, they don't here locally at Fort Worth, but in order to do excessive heat advisories and warnings, a lot of times the criteria they look at, or one of it, is overnight lows dropping below 80. They don't use that here. They have each office kind of sets their own criteria based off of their local weather, right? And so they don't use that here, but a lot of folks do. And so where I'm going with that, I mean, next week with, again, overnight lows basically at or above 80 each and every day. Again, heat wave even next week will continue as well. So that's where we are, folks. That's kind of the background of the forecast. Again, fingers crossed, we have some heat relief for the weekend. Outside of that, I mean, it's summer in Texas, right? This is nothing unusual. The only thing that is unusual is just the string of triple digits. I mean, that started last year. Last summer was just excess. I mean, we've seen this before in the summer of 1980, which was even hotter than this summer, obviously even hotter than last summer. If you average it all out. But keep in mind, a typical, if you look at really the last 30 years, you average everything out, a typical, again, an average high would be around 96. So yes, we're definitely above normal, but we're not setting records like in the summer of 1980 where I didn't live here then. In fact, I wasn't even born then. we were setting records, almost each and every day. We're not doing anything like that. So where I'm going with that, this isn't just completely unprecedented, right? I know sometimes when things get really hot, people get a little worked up and wondering what's going on. So it's a little unusual, but again, in the grand scheme, nothing that we haven't seen before. So that's where we are. That's all I got. We'll do another one of these tomorrow. Of course, otherwise, our normal forecast with the pretty graphics and stuff, that's on our channel, of course, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Otherwise, thanks for watching. And again, like I mentioned, if you're seeing this on social media, feel free to give us a like. And also feel free to leave a comment below as well. Also, don't forget, if you haven't downloaded our free mobile app, it's also another way you can watch our live channel. Be sure to do that today. It is available in the Apple iTunes and also the Google Play Store. And again, it is completely free. Just type in Weather Tracker TV DFW. Otherwise, stay cool out there. And again, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday afternoon.